Hi there. I'm Lisa Taylor, and I am the creator of This Choice Matters. You're on this channel. And we do a show every day called Morning Metaphys, and we look at a lot of Bible stories and the law of God and how the law of good operates in our lives. And this week I was looking at the story in the Bible where Jesus and the disciples get into a boat and they go on the lake and they are going to the other side, and Jesus falls asleep and the storm is raging, and the disciples wake him up and say, Master, Master, save us. And he calms the wind and the sea, and he says, where's your faith? And clearly, Jesus, as sort of the exemplar of this incredible law of God, knows that there's a law of harmony operating, always present. But if we're not conscious of that, if we're not relying on that, if we're not trusting that, we tend to operate based on what the five physical senses are telling us and what sort of material law is telling us. I put that in air quotes because God's law always trumps that. So there's that thing in this science of the Christ, this Christian science is another name for it, divine science, where the law of God is operating. There's a principle operating. And I was looking up the word logos, which is the word of God. And the definition of logos includes the word of God or principle of divine reason and creative order. The principle of divine reason or creative order. There's a principle governing. And we see it in nature all over the place. We see it when flowers bloom. We see it when, we see the sun, what looks like the sun rising and falling. We see it in nature all the time and we don't question it. We see it, our hair growing and our fingernails growing. We see evidence of this divine order. Life finds a way. There's a divine order operating. So we know this. And yet, when we're struggling with something immediate, like the disciples were with the waves and the wind, well, how many times do we feel like we're in the boat that's being tossed by the waves and the wind? There is a family member today that is at a transition point in their life, and they're facing a lot of unknowns and a lot of sort of choices at different sort of forks in the road. And as a parent, there's a temptation to worry. There's a temptation to kind of think about all the things that could go wrong. And yet, as a metaphysician, I know there's a law of God operating. I know there's a law of good, a law of harmony, a law of adjustment that's operating, that's part of the law of God, the law of good. And I know this, and I can sort of let the worry take a back seat, and I can acknowledge the law of God, and I know that they are being governed by this law. And I don't have to get into that place of concern, because what I'm holding in my thought is going to be what's in my experience. What keeps me from diving into the worry is the understanding that there's a law operating that is bigger than any concern I could have, any fear that I could have, and I can have faith in that. And I can look back at my experience and see all the different times where things have always worked out. Why? Because there's a law of harmony operating. There's a law of good operating. And I just invite you to take a look at what is this divine law? What is, those of you who know the term Christian Science, which some people think that it's just a religion. Well, in fact, when it was first discovered, there was no intention of making it a religion. There was a thought that all of the different spiritual practices and religions of the world would adopt this understanding of this law of good. And when that didn't happen, a religion was formed called Christian Science, which a lot of people know. But it's a law that operates that anyone can understand and live by in their lives. It's kind of, to me, I call it sort of the Swiss Army knife of spiritual understanding. It's like when you understand this law, you can, I don't want to say apply it, you can live by it and understand that it's operating in any area of your life, any area that you get challenged in, You can turn to the law of God and know that that's operating, and then see through the illusion, the lesser than view. You can see through that picture, just like Jesus did in the boat. He saw through the wind and the waves. He calmed thought. He calmed the storm. Fear lessened, and their experience shifted as a result of that, because he understood God is always present. Harmony is always present. We get to acknowledge that, lean on it, live it out, see it in our experience. So when you're tempted to be afraid, either something in your life, something in your family's life, or a loved one's life, remember the law of God is operating. Remember that you can rely on that. And that when we listen for that still small voice to guide us to the right idea, we can see glimpses of what's the truth. Where do I turn next? It changes our decisions. It changes our viewpoint. We see through that spiritual lens instead of through the material lens. And we see more of God. We see more of good. We see more of the logos, the word of God, that divine principle operating and present and available to all of us. So I know it's got a little bit longer, but just wanted to share that. It's been very comforting for me. And I just would love to offer that to you, and hope that you join us. And if you ever want to check out Morning Metaphys, which is the show I do every day at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, there's a website you can go to, getfreesupport.com. You can try it out for free for a week and just see if it aligns with you. See if it's something that supports you on your daily spiritual practice. Because to me, a daily spiritual practice and really aligning my thought with God every day is what has saved my life. It has changed the trajectory of my life. It has brought me to this location where we are now living in this beautiful location right on the water, and something that I've dreamed of my whole life. And following God has brought me here, where I've seen the dreams come true that I've always wanted. That, it's like your life just gets better. So I invite you to join us. I invite you to, and if you don't do it with us, do it in your own way, in your own time, in your own space, but commit to a daily practice, commit to a daily aligning with your true highest self. And the easiest way that I sort of outline this for myself and for anyone who's followed me for any length of time: look up, look in, look out. It is the subject of my book coming out this fall. And I invite you to just practice that. Look up to God, look up to the divine, to that higher power, whatever you call that. Look in and recognize that you are the reflection of that you are created to be exactly who you are, and you have a lot to give the world. And then look out and express that outwardly and see that others are doing the same. So lots of love. I will go on, but I won't. I could, but I won't. Nice to see you, and please join me in Morning Metaphys. Go to